One job.
Here we go.
Oh, all right.
We're here, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looks like it.
Let's go. Just nervous for a second. It never fails. Like I can always anticipate how long it takes to start and end the stream, and if it's ever like outside that bubble, I'm like, ah, shit.
The end is always awkward. We always say goodbye, and then it's there for another 4 seconds or something.
Yeah, I want to hold like we turn to black and white at the end of a movie and like freeze in the air.
Yeah.
But
we all jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I end the broadcast, and then it gives me kind of like a front screen showing that it's ending it, so I can like vaguely see you guys in the background, like another window kind of pops up, and I'm like waiting for it to end, and I can see you guys kind of like itching in the background, like, all right, can we fucking leave, or what are we doing?
Can I go to bed now?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to end the broadcast? They didn't make many good points. What StreamYard?
Let's bring it back.
Oh, that is a good point. Where is the Ricky Bagel? Yeah, Kismet opened their brick and mortar, and I should reach out. I know they were having a baby, but if they can make bagels, they can make the Ricky Bagel. So
Priorities.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point, Eric. It's a good point. Thank you. Another 30 seconds or so.
Just confirming, we did get some voicemails. Little pre-show preview. Of
we did get some voicemails. 833 Lickface.
Did you vet them is what he's asking.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I vetted them.
I read that as get.
Oh.
Good
yeah, we
guy.
vetted them. We vetted them. They're vetted. Made them sound better, all that kind of stuff. Took out some ums. Made everybody sound great. Yeah, made everybody sound great.
Nice.
Don't worry, that's going to be CJ's job moving forward. I just wanted to see if it worked or not.
Fair.
So, where's my stuff?
CJ running the sex line.
Yep. 976 CJ. 976 CJ Sex.
Born to do it.
Leave the X off for savings. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, the Sixers have yet another front office change, this time at president. It seems like MCW is part of an NFT scam. The Celtics, rather, wow, what a fucking terrible era that was, inch closer to a title and a full mailbag, and for the first time, Ricky voicemail. That's right, you can leave us a voicemail at 833 Lickface. You might think that's too many characters. You can leave off the E for savings. Kinetic Skateboarding, I mentioned, is on a roll right now. I'm actually going to be in the Philly area this weekend for the Pride 5K. I'm going to go down to Wilmington, stop by Kinetic, get me some T-shirts, get me, I got to keep dressing like a 17-year-old, even though I'm 45. Got to keep doing it. And Kinetic, no better place than Kinetic. Every time I get one of their friggin' newsletters in the email, I want to buy half the shit. So I'm going to go down there and spend a bunch of money. You should spend a bunch of money with Kinetic. KineticSkateboarding.com, promo code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who has been disguising his voice for the last 2 days just to leave voicemails on the Ricky voicemail line. That is one, Mike Levin.
Yep. I have been doing that. But let me tell you,
Yeah.
been really enjoying this Phil's win streak.
Been
Really enjoying it since
7
they
in a
fired
row.
their coach. Something that we are allowed to do. Allowed to get rid of the coach that is old, obstinate, and ineffective.
Even if they've got a contract, you can just pay
Even
them.
if they got a contract, even if it's a name that people recognize, you can do it.
Even if he's won a title before. A lot of things that Joe Girardi had going for him.
In a different era, even then.
Even if he was a player. And even if that position was oftentimes thought of as the sort of quarterback of the entire, team, even though it's baseball or basketball, you could still fire that person, as the Phillies showed. So
Still do it.
No connection to the Sixers
And
whatsoever.
proves that you will never lose again.
Yes. At least so far, I believe we have enough evidence. This is proven. Just like the Big Barker Penn Vet study, this is proven.
Pretty good. They're going to lose 8 straight, but so far, so good.
So before we get to all of our topics and our mailbag and our voicemail line, I wanted to present something to you, something that I was feeling as I was texting with one Jason Lipschitz, friend of the Ricky, co-worker of AU. He might even be AU's boss. Is he AU's boss? He might be. I don't know. Jason Lipschitz of Billboard Magazine. We were talking about the Sixers back and forth. And I mentioned to him, and I thought about it more. We've been through a lot of bad endings to Sixers seasons, and prior
Exclusively
bad endings, and prior to the playoff endings, it actually, most of the off seasons weren't that bad. Like they were actually pretty exciting. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of hope, so on and so forth. This off season, even compared to last off season, which was terrible, this is the worst feeling off season I remember since we started doing the podcast in terms of lethargy and sort of an overall malaise. I can just tell, like, this is the worst off season. This is the worst moment I think I've felt around this since Hinkie left. Last year, at least, there was sort of like rage and confusion, and you were feeling something, right? This offseason feels like everybody, I think there's an exhaustion that comes along with, especially for the fans who have been along with this for a long ride. It's been a lot, but there's a feeling in my gut, deep down, that I think some people might be experiencing, where it feels like it could kind of be like the end, like the beginning of the realization that the thing that we were hoping for seems like it might not happen. And I've never felt less energy for, like, I've never seen fewer. We're still getting plenty of emails, everybody's listening and all that kind of stuff, and I appreciate everybody listening, but not a lot of trade emails, not a lot of draft emails, not a lot of chatter on those sorts of things. It just seems like a bunch of like, bleh. And I don't think I've ever felt it like this.
Well, I wouldn't disagree that the idea that people feel exhausted and burnt out by this team, this organization. I mean, Harden is the latest in a run of this is going to be like the savior that we get behind. And it was like Jimmy, and then they got rid of him, and then it was like Horford, and then that blew. And then it was like, actually, it's just going to be Joel Embiid. We got Joel Embiid shooting, and that's going to be good. And then that ended badly, even after they finished the number 1 seed last season. And then it was hard, and it was like, we did our, 19th victory lap or whatever it is. And he just wasn't good enough. And now we're faced with the idea of Derek Bodner on his newsletter just put out a nice article that I read most of. No one was reading all of it, Derek. That's the longest article of all time. Who's reading that much about the apron? Come on, bud. about how much do you give Harden, how many years do you give it to him, and like factoring in Maxi's contract when he's gonna have to get a new one, and when Harden is 36, 37, you would like him to not be here so you can find that third max guy with Maxi and Embiid to usher in the next era, hopefully seamlessly. But the difference is, I think the feeling of that and the frustration of that is real in the fan base, in us probably. Certainly compounded by the fact that the fucking Celtics are up 2-1 in the finals right now.
Yep. We'll get to that.
But I do think that the fact that Joel Embiid has finished second in MVP voting in back-to-back years is a singularly good thing that just doesn't happen very often, if ever. And the fact that like he's healthy as far as long-term health goes. He's not, there's not like his knee will never be the same type injury that they're dealing with. And he just like keeps getting better and has proven a commitment to the city and wanting to be the main guy here. I think that is just different than what it's been like in previous eras or for previous teams when you're like aimless on court. And so I think that they have to like obviously do a far better job than they have in previous years of building around him. And whether that's Harden he picks up his option and then we see in the future, or it's just like a collection of, better role players around these guys that play harder, faster, that can make his life easier, defend while not being total zeros on the other end, all that stuff. The fact that they have Joel, and I would add Maxi just as far as like joy goes. But I think I'm certainly, even as I'm frustrated and don't want to like talk or think about the Sixers in any real positive light right now, it is hard to once the season ends and we have the draft and we have some free agency and we can like take some time away from the actual team itself, and we come back in September, October and go like, well, they still have Joel Embiid, and there's a very good chance that he's the best or second best or third best player in the Eastern Conference. And they have a shot. So he's got to get better, even as good as he's gotten, and they definitely have to do a better job surrounding him and maybe firing the coach. But it is certainly not without hope because he's the best. He's the man.
I guess I do disagree that.
But you can look at look at Boston last year.
No,
look at Milwaukee the year before they won. All that stuff. Like things are bad for pretty much every team that expects to win a championship and doesn't.
I'm not talking about what the reality is. I'm talking about what the
feeling.
The feeling. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not debating whether they can. Right. Okay.
I was agreeing with the feeling part.
Sure. So we did have a change in the Sixers front office.
This will do it.
New Philadelphia's own Chris Heck, president of, I forget what his actual title was. It was president of something.
Boathouse Row.
Chris Heck, after nearly a decade.
President of Boathouse Row.
President of Boathouse Row, Chris Heck, leaves the Sixers saying it was time. Chris did not have anything to do with basketball operations. I will say, though he was obliterated, pretty high level obliteration of Chris Heck publicly
for three things:
New Philadelphia, color
New
star,
Philadelphia, and saying we don't say Philly, we don't say blue collar,
right?
Because it's actually we have class. Actually, this city.
Yep. He did come back with the. If he takes credit for those uniforms, though, in New Philadelphia, the Spectrum uniforms were an enormous one.
Spectrum unis kicked ass.
Yep.
So that was New Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. It was Boathouse Row.
Yep.
And it was not. I know you don't like them, but not doing the black Iverson jerseys.
Oh.
Iverson era jerseys. I know you don't like them, but that is something that like they should have had for at least a little bit. Just like the Eagles should have gone to Kelly Green. Like it should have happened already. Like these things are just like, what else are you doing for your fans if not giving them the thing that some of them are asking for sometimes?
Well, Color Star is on his watch.
Is it? Yeah, I guess that's right. I guess that's true.
It is. Now, in fairness, Chris was always nice to me and fair to us publicly and in person. I will give Chris credit for that. It was always nice to me. Probably my favorite Chris Heck moment, I've never shared this with anybody. We were in Indiana for New Year's Eve for Fly the Process. And Embiid was supposed to play. And there started to be whispers that he may not be playing in the game. And before anything came out, my phone rang and it was Chris Heck. And I was like, fucking A, he's going to tell me that Joel Embiid's not playing to try to smooth this over so we don't have an incident here. And it was Chris Heck to tell me that, in fact, Joel Embiid was not going to play that night. He delivered it to me personally. And he also delivered to me personally before it went public that they were going to use Trust the Process publicly. And I just sort of laughed. But onward and upward.
Well, how did that conversation go? I would like to know.
Well, it was just like, we're over it, you know, like I think at that point he was like, he's just doing what's he going to do? He called up.
No, I just would like to know, like, because the branding of it was, we're denying it. We're not looking at it.
Yes.
We're past it. Scott O'Neil vehemently against it.
And
then like, it was already so tied to them that they eventually just like, were like, okay, fine. They gave in.
For not that long, by the way. They didn't use it that long. And it was pretty brief. He called. I respect him for calling and telling me that they were going to do it. We certainly didn't have any copyright claim to it. So at the very least, they did delete the tweets when they acknowledged us years ago. But all that said, I was just like, it's cool, man. Whatever. We're over it. That was it. It was a pretty short conversation. What am I going to do? Kick and
Any
scream?
sort of like corporate acknowledgement wasn't really part of the grassroots movement we have here for pointless fandom.
Well, it was sort of like them using it was the end of it to me.
Yeah.
You know, it was like the mark. And I give Derek credit. Derek criticized them pretty heavily for doing it without mentioning us, I think, as well too. But that's part of the bit. So onward and upward, Chris Heck. Good luck. You know, before we get to the NFT scam and then the mailbag, I want to talk about.
Does this mean more Tad? Sorry, I have to be my. Oh. I'm a Tad guy. Does this mean Tad takes a bigger role or more front and center? No, Tad was over that position anyway. They're not replacing that, from what I understand. Chris Heck's role. They have a bunch of front office folks. Laura Price, who's been there for like 2 decades, and Tad now. So farewell. I mean, within 2 years, no Scott, no Chris Heck. All gone. Truly, the process has ended with Scott O'Neil and Chris Heck leaving. Now we can mark it. I know there's a lot of debate about when it happened, and it's right now, officially. Yep. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Big Barker is a sponsor of the Ricky. We sent a Big Barker to an unnamed player on the team who is looking forward to using the Big Barker. And Mike, I believe we will hear from that player on this pod within the next 2 weeks. What does that mean, on this pod? On this pod, I believe that we will have that player on this pod, the one who got. We'll have the player on the podcast. Okay. Yes, not the dog. Not the dog. No, we won't have the dog. There's a couple people, 2 I'm thinking of that have dogs. Have dogs active on their social medias. Yep. No comment further than that. The reason that we sent them a Big Barker is because it's the only real dog bed. You go to bigbarker.com/Ricky, bigbarker.com/Ricky. That's where you get the Big Barker dog bed with the Process Pup patches. You send us a photo of your dog on the bed. We put them in the Process Pup gallery. What is the difference between Big Barker and other dog beds? Everything. It's a real bed. It is made for your dog's health. For your dog's comfort, for your dog's quality of life. Big Barker is the only dog bed on the market that is engineered by experts to support your dog's joints so your dog is more comfortable. That's it. It's the only one on the market that does this. It's the only one on the market that has proven it with a study by Penn Vet. You can just look at the bed and know the difference. It is different. Dogs develop arthritis as they age, and when dogs are young, you got to sleep on a comfortable bed so you got lots of energy the next day to chase squirrels and shit and sleep again, and Big Barker is the one to do it. Your job as a dog owner is to make your dog's life the best it can be. That's your only job. You got to treat your dog like royalty, and Big Barker is how you do it. 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. 1 year at-home trial.
If you do not like it, or your dog doesn't like it, more importantly, you can send it back. You get a full refund. They'll even pay for the shipping. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. Let me read this to you, Mike. The headline is, Players-Only NFT project founded by NBA players, rug pulls for $1.4 million. Crypto sleuth Zach XBT reported on June 8 that Players Only, an NFT project created by a group of NBA players, including Michael Carter Williams and Jeremy Grant, appears to be a rug pull. The players used their star power to drum up interest in the project and its somewhat unsettling NFTs of various bobblehead-esque sports players. The project promised close involvement from the athletes who found it, with a roadmap advertising autographed merchandise, real-life and metaverse meetups with players, and other giveaways. Although the project team promised that every single one of our holders will win something, the collectors were in for a lot of disappointment. Players never showed up for events, and Zoom meetups were never scheduled despite repeated requests, and merchandise was never sent. One person who was promised a signed... One person who was promised a signed jersey instead received a T-shirt, apparently devoid of any signature. In mid-May, two project creators announced they would be, quote, stepping back on the project as they cannot seem to please the community. The announcement broadly blamed the project's failures on, quote, a lack of interest in the project. They said they would no longer be providing physical items and would focus on, quote, athlete utility through in the time that the project has remained similarly in the time since the project has remained similarly stagnant. Collectors minted players only NFTs in early December for 0.08 Ethereum each. That is about $144. One NFT from the project has been sold on the secondary market in the last month for about $2. So congrats to MCW and
really
Jeremy
difficult for everybody. Whatever happened to just like somebody pays me to show up to a mall to sign autographs?
By the way, that's
and I don't
what
have to
we
worry
do
about
with
like
the live shows. Like somebody pays for a ticket, they get a picture with the fucking player, they get an autograph. Done.
But these, like this idea that like there's probably like financial managers in all of their heads being like, you gotta be doing your own business and you have to be communicating with the customers and handling the customers' like finances, and they're depending on you, Michael Carter Williams. Like you gotta do it. You have to do it. It's just like, guys, the idea that they think that they ever thought this was a good idea, taking on a ton more responsibility to deal with fucking dickheads that are gonna blame them when it goes wrong. It's just like, all you just keep like say, come on down to like John's Toyota and like get a bucket of cash and leave. It doesn't matter. I'm blown away by how many people were convinced. Like, obviously the people that get fooled into this shit is bullshit, but how many like players were convinced by business manager, financial managers that they should be doing this? And to just be like, hey, here's just like a ton more stress. Congrats. Now you get to bear that responsibility on your shoulders. It's unbelievable. What a waste of time. Guys, just like you're in the NBA. Michael Carter Williams, sorta. But for everybody else, you're in the NBA. That is great. That kicks ass. Just like do that job that is good and don't take on like a fucking middle management finance job on top of it based on pictures that other people can save. I just don't understand whether it was NFTs or fucking crypto. It's all fucking the same. It's all bullshit. It's all fake. It's just like, why in the world would they do this?
Just with your free time, either invest in a real business or just have fun. Right? Like
just have fun. You're like
whole thing you got to do a Zoom with a fucking
God.
Some NFT avatar ape guy.
Yeah, or like put your name on like a wine, like or like coffee, or what Jimmy's doing is even like fine. Like, hey, I'm gonna put my name on coffee or wine, and then somebody else is gonna do at least most of the work. And then I'll chime in with some other things like that. But like the idea that you're going to be front and center and get blamed for it. No one's ever going to blame somebody if like, hey, this coffee's not that good. It's like, oh, I guess I won't buy Jimmy's coffee. But it's like, hey, you lost me like $150,000, Jeremy Grant. Then they're going to be pissed off at Jeremy Grant. It's
just
I don't
sell
know.
products.
What a waste of time.
for dollars instead of Ethereum. That's if whatever business you're going into requires you to sell the product using a weird internet wallet that has Ethereum in it, sell a different product, invest in a different business. As you mentioned, the Celtics, and then we'll get to mailbag and voicemail. Voicemail line 833 Lickface. You can leave off the last E for savings when you dial that. The Celtics are up 2-1 on the... What's that? Yeah, Lickface. You can dial Lickface. It's just the final E is not necessary. You can save it, but to save it for savings. So Celtics are up 2-1. They on the Golden State Warriors. And I had a revelation today. Of course, today has been marred by the biggest baby temper tantrum from whiny bullshit from Klay Thompson, Draymond Green's wife, and then Philadelphia's own Jason Dumas, who is just like on Twitter all day long talking about how he can't believe that the Golden State players and their families had to endure curse words from the Boston fans. They said the F word and said the B word, apparently, has been mostly today. I'm sad to say, and I know this is unacceptable, but I have turned on the Warriors. I hope the Celtics win the title because of this. Yes. This is, I can't believe we spent all day doing this when we all thought it was hilarious for 2 years that Knicks fans chant fuck Trae Young during every game. And Klay Thompson, because he lost, is worried that the Boston fans said the F word. You guys are not acting like champions. You're fucking losers. I hope the Celtics win. I am cheering for the Celtics. Warriors exude loser energy for a team with 3 championships. I hope they lose. Draymond Green, your dumb podcast, new media, 2 points a game, 7 turnovers. Everybody scores on you. Full of shit. Go Celtics. I'm sorry. That's how I feel.
That's tough to hear.
I know. I'm just being honest. I've always been honest. I'm being honest.
I don't particularly care about curse words. I've always been very against, putting a hashtag in the middle of the word "but," for example.
Right. Curse words are fine.
No, I won't root for the Celtics. I won't be rooting for the Celtics.
That's fair.
Ever.
Who do you think's going to win now?
I think the Celtics are probably the better team, which is tough to say. The Warriors just seem like a bunch of guys played well and they still can't quite get over the hump because Boston's just bigger and more physical and they're hitting tough shots. Tatum's really good. He hasn't played that well, but he's just a robot. Like if there's a smaller guy on him, he'll just be able to get into his moves and shoot over him. Like once he does that, it just seems like he practices his moves so much that like if he gets his feet down and he doesn't get like bumped off his spot at all, then he's just a robot. He'll hit it.
Thought he did a good job in Game 3, sort of getting everybody involved too. He's not always
really
a great
improved that part of
distributor,
his
but
game.
he was really good in that game.
Yeah, he's gotten way better at that. No, I don't like it. I don't like that I'm gonna probably put a better worded tweet together. This is a little peek behind the curtain here. But the idea that the Celtics are now up 2-1 in the NBA Finals and
tweet it on the pod.
I can't do it. I have to like really sit with it. Take my time. Let it marinate. The fact that the only Sixers involvement is there's an Embiid crypto ad during the broadcast is a real like devastating hit. It hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out well for us. The Celtics are just like, I read a really nice article by, who is it by? Mir and Fader on the Ringer,
Ringer,
about the Derek White trade, and I thought that was really good. I mean, they don't play that many guys. I think like honestly, the Celtics are about like 7 deep, and the fact that the Warriors have like 12 guys that they can go to, I think makes them a little, I don't know, muddier in some sense that like people don't really. It's like the 7 guys know that they're gonna play. They're gonna play a little bit, and like this is just they have no other choice. So if like someone on Boston gets injured, then I think that maybe the series could go a different way because the Warriors are absolutely the deeper team. But there's not like a perfect thing for the Warriors to go to because Draymond's such a non-shooter, because Looney's such a non-shooter. But you need them for their defense and rebounding. It's tough. It's tough to. I'm not enjoying myself.
Fucking Emo Udoka was on our bench. He was
there. Monty Williams was there. They're talking about Kevin Young, former Sixers assistant, maybe getting interviewed for some jobs, maybe the Jazz job. But we were right, and it wasn't our fault. Some of it was our fault, but it was our fault that we picked the Warriors. That Sam from Light Years accepted our.
Blame Sam. He should have refused our endorsement.
100% shouldn't have taken it. And some of it was our fault, but like we didn't make the moves that the Sixers. I mean, we occasionally defended them because, for the most part, we attempt to get on board. We don't want to just be. At least speaking for myself, I don't want to just always be a hater. I didn't like the Al Horford signing, and then I was like, okay, maybe it can work out. I didn't like the Tobias Harris trade, but then he's like, okay, maybe that can. All right, I didn't like getting rid of Jimmy, but if there, I bought the idea that there were no other options, and you're critical where you be critical, and it just hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out as much as we wanted to, and no matter which of the 17 people have been in charge, it hasn't gotten there. And now Joel Embiid's in a crypto ad while the Celtics take a lead in the finals. That hurts. And Markelle Fultz is somewhere, and the picks did swap. Unfortunately, if the picks hadn't swapped, then I would probably be a happier person.
Yep. It's like the shittiest Black Mirror episode ever.
Yeah. What if the picks didn't swap?
Yeah. The Celtics are now minus 240 to win the title at DraftKings Sportsbook. Warriors plus 200. The line on Game 4, I believe, is Celtics minus 4. And then, let's see, next year, title, Sixers still sit at plus 1,400, and the Celtics and Warriors co-favorites to win the title at plus 600. At DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, make any $5 NBA bet and get $150 in free bets instantly. Did a little, what's it called? Sponsor on sponsor happiness. Make sure Ethan from DraftKings got some Surfside stateside vodka yesterday, as he needed it for a trip. $5 NBA bet, get $150 in free bets instantly. Or NBA Finals, do the same game parlay. Put fucking 8 legs on it. Why not? Make the odds plus 4,000. Put $10 on it, and then you can retire. This season, a customer placed a $5 same game parlay bet, won $5,000. You can create your own same game parlay. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS. Make any $5 bet during the NBA Finals. Get $150 in free bets instantly. It's promo code RTRS. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right. So we'll go to the mailbag. We now have 2 ways you can get to us on the mailbag. That is, send us an email, rights to Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 1-833-LickFace. That's 1-833-LickFace. You don't need the E. You can save the last E for savings. We will start with a voicemail. Why don't we do this one? Let's see if it works. Of course not. Wait. This is my fault. Hold on. CJ's somewhere laughing. He's like, fuck you. I'm the producer. Here we go.
Someone tweeted at me that the site was
So this
broken
is Garrett
today.
from Virginia.
Wait, hold on. What's that?
Someone tweeted at me that the site was down today.
Was down for
broken?
about 3 hours for some reason. I went into, so our site is on Squarespace, but it's hosted by GoDaddy. And for some reason it was saying that like we didn't have the site anymore. So I had to like refresh the DNS entry and blah, 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 blah.
Feels like a Celtic sabotage situation.
Yes, it does. All right. On to the voicemail.
So this is Garrett from Virginia. My basketball question is, seeing how well Robert Williams is doing for the Celtics and his sort of role there, do you think B-Ball Paul has any chance to start at the 4 for the Sixers this year? And then my non-basketball question is, if you had to wear socks 100% of the time or 0% of the time, which one are you taking? Finally, rip to our long-lost dying king, Chris Heck, the biggest Rights to Ricky fan out there. All right, goodbye.
Dying king, Chris Heck. So B-Ball Paul at the 4 next to Joel Embiid, comparing B-Ball Paul, obviously, to Robert Williams.
Yeah.
Quite a leap.
Yes. Robert Williams, a ridiculous combination of vertical and for a guy that big.
Yeah.
B.O. Paul, who after the season said his vertical is trash and he is going to get 10 inches higher this offseason. So maybe by next season, 10 to 15 inches more vertical. So if that is the case, then I'm willing to hear it. You know, I'm on board with at least this season playing some, at least this playoffs, playing some B-Ball Paul with Embiid because of how frustratingly weak and slow and tryless, if that's a word I can make up, the bench and much of the starters were during the playoffs. So hopefully next season they won't need that. Paul can just be the regular old backup center. But I like it in a pinch. You know I do.
Email, this comes from Stefan.
Wait, we got to answer the sock
Oh, yeah, sock question. Always socks or never socks?
I'll go... I like socks, but socks to sleep in is tough. I'll get real hot. So I'll say never socks.
Oh, I hadn't considered when he said always socks, you can never take them off. I just thought he meant during the day when you're out doing your thing.
I think he said
what do you think he meant, CJ?
CJ, sock correspondent CJ.
That's right, expert on the topic. Definitely at all times when you're sleeping.
So this is Garrett from Virginia.
Wait, hold on. Can we listen to it again? Hold on.
Sure.
Oh my God.
100% of the time or 0% of the time.
Yeah.
And then
You're right. He said 100% of the time or 0% of the time. Then I go 0. I completely agree. I'm sorry. I had that wrong. You're right. And then farewell to our dying king, Chris Heck. So this email comes to Stefan. Remember, Rights to Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. First of all, thank you for bringing us joy to us processors when the Sixers break our hearts. Kind of basketball question. If the Sixers ever win the finals, will Mike get a process-themed tattoo sleeve?
I'm jumping right to a sleeve.
Yeah, you got to go sleeve.
I'm going from no tattoos ever to a full sleeve.
Full process sleeve.
No. But if the Sixers win a championship in this era, in the Embiid era, then I will entertain the idea. I'm not committing to it whatsoever, but I'll entertain the idea of like maybe I should get a tattoo. But I don't know.
Ooh, okay. That's a huge leap, I think. Non-basketball.
I think that if the Sixers win it, if Embiid Sixers win a championship, I will do things that I've never even considered before in my life. I won't be in control of my body.
That
I
sounds hot.
can't even fathom it. It is like seeing the end of the world, and just like the beyond it is, I don't know. I have no idea. I have not a clue.
Non-basketball question. I guess this is for me. CJ, you can answer as well, as you have several tattoos, which people don't know, including a Mike Scott Hive tattoo. What area hurt the most when getting tattooed? I only have my arm done, but the wrist was worst by far. So I'm not going to count time because I have one on my leg that took like 8.5 hours. And by the end of that, it was just fucking torture. I would say the two worst places that I've ever had tattooed are my elbow and the side of my hand. Like the edge of my hand were horrible. Yeah.
I've only done my legs. I think I've said it before. The back of my thigh, it feels like you're getting like your ass tattooed, even if it's like mid back thigh.
Yep.
I'm getting close to my knee done in like 2 weeks, so I'll give an update on that. But yeah,
I think CJ touched on something in that I recently, last week, I got something on my chest, and you can tell it's really hurting when you think it's in one place and it's actually several inches away from that place. So I was like, ooh, he's really got my collarbone, and it was 2 inches under my collarbone, and that's how you know how bad the collarbone will hurt. Okay, let's go back to the voicemail. Remember, 833 Lickface.
Starting with a fart. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you.
All reasonable.
Your thoughts? Yep. This comes from Mark. Rights to Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Basketball question. If someone gave you the option to go back to the start of the year and just switch every player on the Sixers roster with every player on the Celtics roster, would you do it? Yes,
Sorry.
of course.
At the beginning of the year?
Yeah,
When
but
am I-
you know now.
So I know now. Me
Yeah.
now doing
Yeah.
it. I mean,
They're in the finals. They've been in the Eastern Conference Finals 4 times.
getting that many Celtics would really, really disgust me in a real way. And having to watch Embiid and Maxey. I don't think that if there was a full roster for roster trade and all those people had to wear Sixers jerseys and Doc Rivers was the coach, I don't think that they would have had as much success. And
That's fair.
in that world of knowing that they wouldn't have gone this far, I would still have had to watch Embiid and Maxey play for the Celtics, and that would hurt worse.
Be crushing.
So I'm assuming that a Celtics Sixers would have lost in the second round under Doc, and I would decline the trade.
That's fair.
Huh?
Non-basketball question. What's a movie you enjoy but has a message or a way of saying the message that you actually don't like or agree with? I recently rewatched the movie High Fidelity. It was still very enjoyable, but it's pretty clear to me now that the protagonist of the movie does not at all deserve to be with the woman he ends up with, and in fact should be in jail for stalking. The message was interesting, but the way they said it was kind of stupid and weird. Another Round is another movie I like watching, but the thought of it actually had kind of a dumb, shitty message. This is tough for me because I think a lot of movies from 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, like if you dive too deep into them, it doesn't totally work. I was reminded of Revenge of the Nerds today, which is, remember, is a funny movie, but like they're videotaping the sorority women without intent and then selling the pictures. Like it's fucking terrible.
Not good.
So, I don't know. Is there a movie that comes to mind for you that has a message or a way of saying the message you don't like or agree with, but you like the movie?
I guess I don't love like message movies in that sense. Like,
sure,
that's not really the kind, I think, especially if it's very full-throatedly like, and here's the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that's not what I gravitate to. And I feel like it usually like feels overly simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely those kinds of Animal House. There's, rape. It's just, it's tough. It's a tough,
yeah.
In the 80s and before, it was just like, it's actually kind of funny. Rape is actually kind of funny. And like, if you make it in like a goofy person does it, like it's not,
it's a fat guy.
No good.
If it's a fat guy involved.
Yeah, no good.
Yeah.
But High Fidelity is an interesting choice. A movie that I definitely loved when I was a kid, and then now it's like, I don't know. And it's also tough times because like I was like the idea of, I think we as Americans, and here's a big starting a sentence like that is such a strong way to do it. But it's a light take, but it started off hot. So I'm going to cool down in a sec.
You should start every one of your takes.
We as Americans. I think we're just so trained to be like, well, you should like your main character. You should like and root for your main character, and you want them to get what they want. Whether it's
that's the sort of Breaking Bad anti-hero sort of
for
thing,
sure. But
right?
even anti-heroes, you're still. I think even like this Walter in Breaking Bad, or Tony Soprano, or plenty of other TV characters that I'm having trouble thinking of now. But I think everybody, you're like, you want to make that person likable. You're invested in wanting, like, caring about your main character and making them likable. And so when a movie or a TV show like does something different than that, the audience, even if they're trying to say like, no, you shouldn't be rooting for, like, for example, Barry, the audience
who's
is
a
still
murderer.
trained to do it and still like predisposed to being like, well, I'm looking past those things because this thing that they did was actually very funny or charming, or I remember something they did in the past and stuff. And so like John Cusack in High Fidelity, I think he's just like such an asshole piece of shit, but because he's like wounded and has feelings, I think as Americans, we are predisposed to like wanting him to succeed and get to that place. Even if the filmmaker or showrunner's intent isn't that, I still think like a lot of times like, no, you're not supposed to like Michael Weber, our pal Michael Weber wrote 500 Days of Summer. There's a lot of things being like, hey, actually Tom's wrong. There's like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is like wrong and he's a dickhead. And people write like hit pieces about 500 Days of Summer that like you shouldn't be rooting for him. And Weber is like, yeah, agree. But like it's hard to convey because I think we're just so used to the main character is right and we should root for them to be right. And so sometimes I think that's lost in the translation of like what the intent was versus how the largely American audience is receiving it.
I also think too, in retrospect, like you can identify with an imperfect character or somebody that does something wrong. Like there's this thing now where like, well, actually Jim sucks and Pam sucks and Ross sucks and like everybody sucks, too. Like there's that too. Like you don't have to, I think like to your point, rooting for them also like doesn't mean too much either, because it's also just an experience of watching a movie sometimes. And rooting for the protagonist, even if they're a bad person, is sometimes fun, so it's not real. So, LL Pavorsky Jewelers, before we get to the rest of the mailbag and the voicemail, LL Pavorsky Jewelers, good person, is the good protagonist in the movie.
Yeah.
Who would play LL in a movie or TV show?
Let me look it up and that'll be the tagline. I'll come up with it.
Okay. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, in business for more than 3 decades at the same spot. You don't do that unless you're the real deal. He's the real deal. That spot is 707 Walnut. Over 260 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have purchased engagement rings from LL Pavorsky. That's a huge number. So much so that when Sam Esfandiari from Light Years was on the pod, he was like, wait a minute, is that a real number? Yes, it's a real number. We joke about it. It's a real number. I've purchased an engagement ring, and I did it before our relationship with LL. Mike was lucky enough to buy it from LL, and though I liked my process, knowing how terrifying it is to have to spend that much money on a piece of jewelry, and not really know what you're looking at, you need somebody you can trust. LL is the guy you can trust. There won't be salespeople all over you when you walk in. Just LL. Right. And I say a lot of money. Look, a lot of money is relative for some people, whether you're spending $1,000 on an engagement ring, $100,000 on an engagement ring, whatever it is. LL, I'm sure he would love the $100,000 one, but will treat you amazing no matter what it is. A amazing guy, an amazing jeweler, and does great business. If you want to buy an engagement ring from LL, 215-627-2252. He wants you to make an appointment so he can have everything ready for you. He can have the conversation with you beforehand. It's not just engagement rings, by the way, any jewelry. Lee at llpavorsky.com tweeted him at llpavorsky. Supports our charities, Providence Animal Center and Coded by Kids. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
As played by an aged up Jeremy Renner.
Oh, wow. That's kind, I think.
Hey, come on. LL got himself in better shape in COVID than I did.
Yeah.
He gets to. I
All
can see
right.
it.
Go to the
Or
voicemail.
Pierce Brosnan doing a bad accent.
I would love Pierce Brosnan. Yeah. 833 Lickface is the number.
I can spike. Love the show. This is Ezra. Just have to say one small thing. On the last episode, you said that Nick Sirianni might be the longest tenured coach in Philly. That's not true. Jim Curran, the head coach of the Union, is the longest tenured coach in Philly, and they have the best GM in Philadelphia as well, with Ernst Tanner. Much better than Daryl Morey. I just have to say that. Yeah, it was sticking in my craw, and again, love the pod. Love everything you guys do. Cheers.
Well, there you go.
Well, actually, Union take.
Look, the Union, I think the Union are an inspirational tale for the Sixers because the Union were just a fucking disaster for several years there. Seemed hopeless. Soccer's weird in terms of like how you get players and then they fucking leave and go and play in other leagues and you play for some weird championship against Ocean City in the middle of the year. But
Ocean City has a soccer team?
There's a cup in the middle of the year. It's called somebody's going to fucking remind me of this. There's some tournament in the middle of the year where you play non-MLS teams. You play like traveling teams and teams from other leagues, and I swear they played an Ocean City team at one point. But they have turned it around, and they do have great merch. And I don't know what. And Jim Curtin is from here and is coaching Union and was there before Nick Sirianni. So
Jim Curtin,
yeah, he's a good guy. We used to have him on WIP every once in a while. Good guy, big Philadelphia fan, and a good coach. Definitely.
I just don't have any more room for sports. I am at
fair.
I'm complete max capacity. And it's nothing against Union fans or Flyers fans. I think people were upset when I just don't have any room, guys. I'm out. I'm fully out. I'm following Logan O'Hoppe and Phillies minor leagues. Like that's as far as I can get. You know, this is as far as I can get.
This comes from Jim. Probably Jim Curtin, writes Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Basketball question. How excited would Mike be for a Dario/B-ball backup front court in 23-24?
Oh, that would be great. First of all, I hope Dario comes back healthy. He's been out for over a year. Tough injury for that guy to have. And I believe he is a free agent and would absolutely love a B-ball Paul Dario 4-5 situation. I think it's maybe a little bit unlikely with Niang, but it's not like you're doing anything with. They just have limited resources, so you have to really make it work. And Dario, even though he tries hard, is still pretty unathletic and slow, which was his charm when he was here, and I loved him for it. But might need someone with a little more bounce.
At least he's tough comparing him to Niang. I'd rather have him than Niang.
Niang's definitely tough. He's physical. He gets in there.
But
they're kind of similar
Dario
players.
is
I think Dario can maybe
physical.
hold up more against bigger people in the post. Dario's got size on him for sure.
Yeah,
height-wise
he's
and length.
more physical than the tough part. And being tough isn't just talking shit to the other team's bench when you hit a three, in fairness. Non-basketball question, who's the worst driver? Oblivious left lane driver, doesn't know how to get over, travels same speed as person next to them, etc. Or a person who's driving 10 miles an hour under the speed limit and slowly putters through the yellow light to leave you sitting at the red. Thanks and keep up the good work.
Oh, I get very frustrated by a slow deciding turn person, where you're like, it's right there, you can do it, you got it, it's right in front of you, go for it, man, I think so. I have two experiences driving to and from work every day. My drive to work, I drive from New Jersey 18 miles to New York City through the Holland Tunnel. I drive to work at 5 a.m., so there's no traffic. It's 29 minutes. It's wonderful. But I have noticed over the last 2 years, people have become way more like scary and aggressive driving when there's not a lot of traffic. Even sometimes when there is traffic, I notice them in the morning, and I will take the slow driver over that person every day of the week. Stop looking at your phone. Stop weaving in and out of traffic. I know I sound like an old person here, but it's fucking terrible. My other experience driving back is about an hour and a half as I just sit there as people try to block people from merging in to get to the Holland Tunnel. I would just not recommend driving in and out of New York City every day. Would not recommend. Voicemail, 833 Lickface.
Hi, this is Jeremy from Marion Hill and Clear Eyes, long-time listener, first-time caller. So I have been watching the finals and shocked by just how much every Celtics win feels like a Sixers loss. It's been emotionally difficult, as I'm sure you understand. And I recently found out, I was on the phone with my parents the other day, and my dad is rooting for the Celtics. And my dad is like a huge reason I'm into the Sixers, the reason I got back into them in my adulthood, to watch games with him, to go to games with him. So should I root for the Celtics? I can't even bring myself to think about it, but it does seem like the core of my basketball, which comes from my dad, is aligned there. she grew up on the Celtics, living in upstate New York, watching the Bill Russell teams. All right. Too long. That's probably over 30 seconds. I'm sorry, but help me. What should I do? Who should I root for? My dad or the Sixers on my heart?
Wow, he's really laying it on thick. So this is Jeremy from Marion Hill, the great Marion Hill, and Clear Eyes. Really laying it on thick for you, Mike, to give him permission to cheer for the Celtics.
Well, he didn't give the dad justification, which I would have liked to hear. What is his dad's reasoning for rooting for the Celtics?
Oh.
And I guess if you're not that as filled with vitriol as I am, you would be like, well, these Warriors have already won one, so like it'd be fun to give like a new batch of guys like a shot. But I feel none of that, none whatsoever. Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Grant Williams can all get the title somewhere else, some other time. Not now, not with this team, not in those colors. I need to know rationale before I jump in, but I'm not on board.
This comes from Steven. Basketball question, rightsrickysanchez@gmail.com. We've already exhausted the dog metaphor for what this team needs, as in mental toughness, but not every dog is aggressive and tough. That's a good point. My dog is a fucking coward. I think I love him, but he is a coward. I think we should think in terms of sailboats versus motorboats. The Sixers currently have lots of sailboats. When the wind is blowing in their direction, they're great and everything looks good. Embiid motions to the crowd for more. Maxey skips up and down the court, but the wind shifts. They encounter difficulty. They fold. By contrast, a motorboat is able to change course when the wind isn't blowing its way. It isn't passive, but rather asserts itself to chart a new course when things aren't going great. We need more motorboats, guys who can change the energy with their words and play on the court when we're stuck in the mud. Who are the motorboats on the current team? I think only Paul Reed. And you could make an argument for Maxey during the regular season. Anyone else?
No, dog mentality is out. He's got that motorboat mentality. He's got that boat in him. Guy's got a boat in his gut. I don't think it works. No one on the Sixers is a motorboat. Maybe Charlie Brown.
Could you do the boat thing again?
Oh, boy.
That got me. Boy, we're desperate. Non-basketball question. Tony Roten will plead guilty to federal fraud charges on June 28th. A bunch of NBA players or former NBA players basically defrauded an insurance company to get claims paid back when they didn't actually go to the doctor. Is this
which I support? I support that more than I support defrauding NFT people.
We don't support insurance fraud.
It's the same. I'd rather fuck over an insurance company than regulars.
But then we all got to pay for it. Is this the worst example of the Ricky curse? Is Furcon next? It's pretty bad.
Tony Roten is a boat. He's a Tony Boaten. But I support Tony in this. I support him 100%. Free Tony.
833 Lickface.
Hey, Spike and Mike, Francisco Bermuda, MD here. First time, long time. Two quick questions. The first one, basketball. How often are we sitting down to pee these days? Second, basketball question. What type of pornography is Ben Simmons masturbating to these days? Love you guys. Bye.
Are we
not
sitting down to pee?
Not sitting down to pee. Been working on my posture while I pee. I feel like I slouch a lot, and I should try to pee from a more proud stance. Porn, Ben porn. I don't know.
It's just pictures of himself playing Call of Duty.
I don't know. He didn't mention it to me. Maybe video game porn. I don't know. People are into that. Not my cup of tea, but whatever.
I'm going to admit something. I did sit down to pee one time.
Sure.
Here's what happened. Oftentimes, because I'm tired at night all the time, when I'm downstairs with my wife watching television, I'll just fall asleep constantly. And she'll wake me up when she's ready to go to bed. And I'm always in that fucking awful period of sleep when you've been asleep for about an hour and everything's confusing. And so I went upstairs and I had a brush my teeth and pee, but I was like nauseous because I was so tired and I didn't want to wake up. And I started to pee and I was like swaying, like left to right. So I sat down. I peed.
There you go.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you know.
Sure.
Let's get one more email, one more voicemail. How about
The voicemail is really making us into a radio show. You're finally getting us there. Finally doing it.
First time.
We
long
did take
time.
callers for like a minute and a half, and then that stopped, right? We did that at one point.
No.
We never took callers?
No.
I feel like we took callers. I took callers.
No,
on
we never
something.
had
I said
the.
it was you.
Don't have the technology to do it. This comes from Brian from the Love Boat.
On the Rights to Ricky radio, we did. On the radio.
We did on the radio, but you were only on the radio show like twice because you had to send back the equipment.
I did.
Or your writing room was at the same time because it was, this comes from Brian from the Love Boat, writes Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. And because it's recorded, it's a little bit better, I think. Hello, dude. On the last pod, you guys were talking about Sixers players, process players who might win a championship this year, and you forgot one very important player, Nemanja Bjelica. Famously, Bjelica agreed to sign with the Sixers, but ultimately decided he wanted to go back home to play, but of course ended up signing with the Kings. I think that series of events is as Sixers as you can get, and I don't blame him one bit. He got a 3-year deal and ultimately ended up on the Warriors. If the Warriors win, do we count Bjelica as a former process Sixer? What do you think? Now, you were counting Jordan McRae, who never played for the Sixers as well.
He did play for the Sixers.
No, he did not.
He had to.
He did not. I went and I looked. He didn't even play for the 78ers or whatever the G League
You're right,
team.
but he played in the minor league. He played summer league. He definitely did some of that.
Summer league. He played
counts,
summer
for
league,
sure.
but he did not
sure
play
it does.
for the Sixers regular season.
No, I don't. I count Frank Gore as an Eagle, but I don't count Nemanja Bjelica as a Sixer. Bjelica is an enemy, and a fun one to hate. He spurned the Sixers for the Kings,
but ended up on the Warriors.
Yeah, but like years later,
Yeah.
I don't think it's excusable. I think it's fun for him to be an enemy, but I don't count him as a former Sixer. No, I count Joel Anthony as a former Sixer for sure.
I would agree with you. Yeah, Joel Anthony for sure. That is Danny Granger, former Sixer.
That's right.
AK-47, former Sixer.
All of them. Jorge Gutierrez, all of them on the shirt. They're in. Bjelica, no.
Non-basketball question, still sports related. When is it okay to move your loyalty to a new sports team, even if it's only for a temporary period? I'm a big Eagles, Sixers, Phillies fan, but when things get bad, I like the idea of having a backup team. My question is that too much of a cop-out? Do I have to be ride or die with my teams? I do want to call out there is a difference between rooting for a team in one game and a temporary relocation of loyalty. For instance, you two rooting for the Warriors in the final is fine to me. Example of what I'm asking. I, too, am not a Doc Rivers fan. If I decide enough is enough, can I root for another team until Doc is gone? Like right now, due to my process Sixers ties, I love watching what OKC is doing. Can I be a Thunder fan until Doc is gone? Or does that require me to return my Sixers fandom card completely?
I mean, I think you can do whatever you allow
Whatever makes you
yourself to
happy.
do. Like
Yeah.
if you can, I don't have it in me. I will go down with the ship. For better, for worse, and it's for worse. But like, if you have it in you to be like, these fucking dickheads are pissing me off, I'm going to legitimately start rooting for another team and extract whatever like Sixers like ride or die-ness is in you, and you can do that, then like go with God. Congratulations. Absolutely. God bless. But I don't have it. I'll fucking die with these losers.
And final voicemail, 833 Lickface. Here we go.
Yo, it's Henry O'Houlihan's up in Tewksbury, Mass. I just wanted to check in with you boys in Philly during what I imagine is a very difficult time for you. I seem to recall Mr. Eskin a few years ago opining so eloquent in the state of your beloved Sixers, more specifically the notion you were fucked in comparison to us up here. Well, here's when you went wrong down there in process land. It's when Burner Boy traded up with us. And
Actually, I thought this would be funny, and it's just pissing me off. That guy's, fuck that guy. Fuck you, Henry. Fuck all the Celtics fans that listen to us to feel better about themselves. Just because I want the Celtics to win, the fucking accent, that guy was obviously actually from Massachusetts. You sound like fucking idiot assholes up there with that stupid fucking accent. It sounds so horrible. It's the worst accent. It's even worse than Hoagie Mouth, I think. I'm sorry.
I feel like you're back to rooting for the Warriors.
I'm not. It's first it was Clay, then it was Draymond's wife, and then Dumas. Reporter Jason Dumas pushed me over the edge. I'm sorry.
All right.
Marcus Smart doesn't talk like that. Fucking the guy. They're not from Boston.
I'm sure you could find some Celtics that are upset about cursing.
They're not complaining about it publicly. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's all
easy to not complain when you're winning.
It's so true. Wouldn't know. All right.
Wouldn't know. Couldn't possibly know.
All right. We will talk to you this weekend. Draft is 2 weeks away from tonight. We will have the big board pod coming up in like a week and a half or so. You still have to send me the players you want to make sure that I watch as well.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you this weekend. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah, Lickfack.